The Cowboys front office is getting flooded with trade calls right now, and one of the wildest names being thrown around might actually shock you. But before we dive deep into which players Dallas could realistically land and which ones are pure fantasy, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button, because we are out here covering every single Cowboys rumor the second it breaks. And honestly, we need your support to keep bringing you this content every single day. So hit subscribe right now and let's get into the chaos that is brewing in Dallas. Look, I'm going to be straight with you. There are some names floating around the rumor mill that sound incredible on paper, but when you actually break down the reality of the situation, they fall apart faster than our defense did in the playoffs. And the first one I need to address is this Danielle Hunter speculation that keeps popping up in Cowboys circles. People want to believe that Houston is going to move this dude because it would be an absolute game changer for our pass rush. But here's the problem. The Texans have extended Hunter multiple times already. They are in win-now mode with a young quarterback in Stroud and a monster in Will Anderson on that defensive line. And they are not about to gut their defense to help us out. Hunter is locked in for the long haul in Houston. They are paying Will Anderson soon. They might eventually have to deal with a Stroud extension down the road, but moving Hunter right now when they are trying to compete in the AFC makes zero sense for them. So as much as I would love to see that happen, it's not realistic, and we need to stop wasting energy on it. The draft is where things get really interesting because at pick 20, Dallas is sitting in this weird spot where there is no clear-cut slam dunk prospect. It's more about finding the best fit from a tier of guys who all have second-round grades, and honestly, it comes down to personal preference at that point. One name that has been connected to us is Chris Johnson, the corner. And look, I actually do not hate that pick, even though some people think it is reaching a little bit. Is it the most exciting, sexy pick that is going to make everyone go crazy on draft night? Probably not. But if our defensive coordinator Parker trusts this corner and thinks he can develop him into a starter, then I am willing to trust the evaluation because corners are hard to find and we have seen what happens when we do not have quality depth at that position. The thing about the 20th pick is that you are not getting a guy with a true first-round grade at this point in most drafts. You are getting someone who is in that tweener zone between round 1 and round 2. So whether it is a corner, an edge rusher, a linebacker, or a safety, they are all going to have question marks, and it becomes about who fits our scheme and who can contribute right away. There are probably 6 corners, 6 edge rushers, 4 linebackers, and a couple safeties all sitting in that same range. And yeah, picking at 20 is decent, but honestly picking at 32 or even 36 would give you better value because those guys are still going to be there, and you would have more draft capital to work with. But here's the thing. Somebody has to be the 20th rated player, and if Chris Johnson is that guy for Dallas, then I get it. I would not lose sleep over it. And frankly, after hearing some of the feedback from people who interviewed him at the Combine, he sounds like a high-character guy who fits what we want in the locker room, so it could work out just fine. Now, let us talk about another name that has been tossed around, Budda Baker, the safety from Arizona, and man, would that be a fun addition or what? Baker is a playmaker. He would instantly solidify our nickel spot and give us that versatility we have been missing in the secondary. But the problem is, the same issue we run into with most of these trade rumors. What is the realistic cost? And is Arizona actually willing to move him right now? The Cardinals just got Jalen Thompson, so they already have one of their top safeties locked in, and I do not know if they are ready to move both of their best safeties in the same offseason. That does not make a lot of sense from a roster-building perspective. Would Budda Baker be awesome? Absolutely. 100% yes. But is he actually available at a price that makes sense for Dallas given our cap situation and draft capital? That is where I have my doubts. Because if Arizona is asking for a second-round pick or something close to it, you have to ask yourself if that is the best use of resources when we have so many other holes to fill. It is one of those situations where the player is great, the fit is great, but the feasibility is questionable, so I am not holding my breath on that one, even though it would be a blast to see him in silver and blue. Here is a question I want you guys to answer in the comments. Do you think Dallas makes a trade before the draft, like an actual player-for-player trade or a trade-up scenario? Drop a 1 in the comments if you think it happens. Drop a 0 if you think we stand pat, because I am genuinely curious where the fan base is at on this. Another big question that keeps coming up is, how long can Dak Prescott keep playing at an elite level? And honestly, that is the wrong way to frame the question. The real question is, how long can Dak stay healthy? Because if his body holds up, he can play at a high level well into his mid to late 30s. Dak is about to turn 33 in late July, and we have seen plenty of quarterbacks hit their prime in this age range. The game is not as physically demanding on him as it used to be because he has evolved from that run-heavy Mississippi State style into more of a cerebral pocket passer who wins with his football IQ and pre-snap reads. People love to hate on Dak, but the dude is really smart at the line of scrimmage. He does not have the biggest arm in the league. He is not running around like Lamar Jackson, but he processes information fast and makes good decisions most of the time, and that is the kind of skill set that ages well. If you look at a guy like Phillip Rivers, that is probably the closest comparison to how Dak plays now. Not the weird sidearm delivery, but the way he controls the game with his mind more than his physical traits, and Rivers played at a high level for a long time. Tony Romo is another example. The best version of Romo was probably when he was 34 years old, and if his back had not betrayed him, he could have played another 3 or 4 quality years into his late 30s, but the injuries cut that short, and that is the fear with Dak. If Dak stays healthy, I genuinely believe he has 5 or 6 more years of quality football in him. Maybe not Tom Brady-level longevity, but enough to compete for championships if we build the right roster around him. But if the body breaks down, it can go south real fast, just like it did with Romo. And that is the gamble you take with any quarterback in their 30s. Now, let us get into some fun trade scenarios that have been floating around, and I want to be clear. These are not things I am reporting as fact. These are ideas and speculation based on what makes sense logically. One scenario that has been thrown out there is Dallas trading picks 12 and 20 plus a future first-round pick to move up for a guy like Myles Garrett, and pairing that with flipping pick 92 for a player like Josh Brooks and a 5th-round pick for Kenny Moore, then drafting a safety in the 4th round. That is a full-on all-in move. And while it sounds incredible because you are adding 3 instant impact starters on defense, with Garrett being a legitimate game wrecker, the reality is I do not know if Dallas operates that way, especially with Jerry getting older and the front office being more conservative with draft capital than they used to be. Also, there is some confusion about whether Dallas can even trade a future first-round pick right now, because that pick might be frozen due to conditional pick situations from previous trades, so the logistics might not even allow it. But as a fun thought experiment, yeah, it would be awesome to go full send like that. The Browns would probably have interest in a package like that because they seem to want future picks if they are going to move Garrett. But again, this is all speculation, nothing confirmed, just ideas being tossed around. Another scenario that has gained traction is trying to move up to pick 6. If a top defender falls, let us say Travis Hunter goes 1, Will Stiles goes 2, Abdul-Malik McClain goes 3, Tetairoa McMillan goes 4, and then Kelvin Banks or Shamar Downs goes 5. If one of those elite defenders is sitting there at 6 and Arizona did not take him, would you be aggressive and try to jump up? I would, especially if there is a run on defenders and it looks like the top-tier guys are flying off the board, because at that point, you have to ask yourself, do I want to sit at 12 and 20 and hope someone falls, or do I go get my guy and not leave it to chance? The trade package that makes the most sense is Dallas sending picks 12 and 20 to Cleveland for picks 6 and 39. And honestly, I would do that deal in a heartbeat. I do not know if the Browns would, but if they are sitting there at 6 and they do not have a clear-cut target, Moving back and picking up an extra first-rounder makes sense for a team that is rebuilding. The problem is, and here is what nobody is talking about, a lot of these reports about Dallas being a potential trade-up candidate are not actually coming from people who have talked to the Cowboys front office. They are coming from other teams and analysts speculating about what could happen, and Dallas is being used as leverage to try to create a market. It is informed speculation. It makes logical sense that Dallas could be aggressive, but that does not mean it is actually going to happen. So we have to take all of this with a grain of salt. If there is a run on offensive linemen early, then Dallas does not have to do anything. They can sit back at 12-20 and be perfectly happy because defenders will fall. But if the board breaks a certain way, and all the top defenders are gone by pick 10, then yeah, you might have to get creative. Let me ask you this. Drop a comment right now and tell me one player you want Dallas to trade for. It does not have to be realistic. Just tell me who you want and why. Because I love seeing what you guys are thinking. One linebacker that has been mocked to us at 20 is the kid from Cincinnati. And look, I am not going to butcher his name. But if you have him as your number 2 linebacker in the class, then 20 is not too rich. But for me personally, he is closer to my 5th rated linebacker, so I would rather take him later if possible. He is an upside player for sure, there is talent there, but I think there is more of an adjustment period coming for him than some other linebackers in this class, so if I had a second-round pick still, that is where I would feel more comfortable taking him. The same thing applies to guys like the edge rusher from Texas Tech. If the value is not great for trading down, do you just take him at 20? And honestly, maybe you do, or maybe you trade down a few spots and still get him while picking up an extra pick. It all depends on how the board falls. One wild idea that got floated around when the Steelers made their coaching change was the possibility of them trading TJ Watt. And people lost their minds when I said I would consider it if I were Pittsburgh. But hear me out. Watt showed signs of decline last year. He was not the same dominant force, and he is getting paid $32, and $36 million over the next 3 years. That is a massive cap hit for a player on the wrong side of 30. If you are the Steelers and you are starting over with a new young coach, does it make sense to move on from Watt, get assets back, and rebuild the defense around younger, cheaper players? I think it does, but I also think ownership would never allow it because Watt is a franchise face, and you do not trade those guys unless you absolutely have to. For Dallas, if Watt somehow became available, that would be a different conversation, but again, not realistic. Let us talk about the ceiling and floor of this Cowboys team for next season because that is something everyone wants to know. If we are talking about a fully healthy roster, the floor should be around 7 or 8 wins. Anything less than that, and you have to start asking serious questions about coaching and whether this thing is actually going to work, because the talent is there, the quarterback is there, and if you cannot win at least 7 games with this roster when healthy, something is fundamentally broken. The ceiling, and this is where it gets interesting, depends entirely on how the draft goes. And if we make any trades, if Dallas nails the draft and adds 2 or 3 instant impact starters on defense, and if guys like Micah Parsons and Daron Bland stay healthy all year, I genuinely think this team can win 10 or 11 games, but that requires a lot of things going right. The NFC East is going to be a bloodbath again. The Eagles are going to be good. The Commanders have a young quarterback they believe in. Even the Giants are trying to rebuild. So we are not getting any easy wins in the division. Every game matters. The backup quarterback situation is another storyline that is not getting enough attention. Do you go with the veteran in Sam Howell who has starting experience and knows how to manage a game? Or do you roll with the developmental upside of Joe Milton, who has all the physical tools but is still raw? Drop JM in the comments if you want Joe Milton. Drop SH if you want Sam Howell, because this is a real debate and I want to know where you guys stand. Personally, I think you go with the guy who gives you the best chance to win if Dak goes down, and that is probably Howell. But Milton has that cannon arm that makes you dream about what he could become with more reps. One last thing I want to touch on before we wrap this up is all the Caleb Downs chatter. There have been some off-field concerns that popped up with him that people knew about during the college season. It was not new information. It was out there for anyone who was paying attention, and that is why you have to watch college football year-round. If you are evaluating these guys, you cannot just show up in March and start watching tape and think you know everything about a player. Context matters, character matters, and teams do their homework on this stuff. So if Downs slides a little bit on draft night, do not be surprised. Teams know things that we do not, and they factor all of that into their decision-making. All right, let me bring this home for you. Here is the bottom line. The Cowboys are in a really interesting spot right now. We have the draft capital to be aggressive if we want to be. We have the roster talent to compete if we stay healthy. And we have a quarterback who can still play at a high level for several more years if his body holds up. But we also have question marks on defense. We have cap limitations, and we have a front office that does not always operate the way fans want them to. The next few weeks leading up to the draft are going to tell us a lot about what direction this team is headed. Are we going all in and trying to win now, or are we playing it safe and building for the future? And honestly, I do not know which path they are going to choose, but I know this. If Dallas does not add impact players on defense in this draft, we are going to be having the same conversations next year about why we cannot get over the hump in the playoffs. So here is what I want from you. Drop a comment right now and tell me what you think the Cowboys should do. Should we trade up? Should we stand pat? Should we go after a veteran in free agency? I want to hear your take, because that is what this channel is all about. Real Cowboys fans talking real football. And if you are not subscribed yet, go ahead and fix that right now, because we are out here every single day, breaking down everything happening with America's team. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let us keep this conversation going. Because the draft is coming fast, and we have a lot more to talk about. Let's go, Cowboys. Let's make this offseason count.